and welcome. I'm your host, Karen Otis-Webb, architect, designer, and architectural realtor. And this is Beautifully Built, the podcast where we explore the art of a life beautifully built, where architecture, design, and real estate intersect. Whether we're talking about the homes we live in or the lives we're building, the foundation, the structure, and the intention matter. We'll dig into bold, honest conversations with guests who have built, rebuilt, or boldly reshaped their lives in ways that will surprise and inspire you. So buckle up, because a life worth living isn't found, it's built. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beautifully Built. Today's guest is Lena Sisco, a former Department of Defense certified interrogator, Navy intelligence officer, and one of the country's leading experts in body language and human behavior. She's the founder of the Congruency Group, where she trains leaders and organizations to build trust, communicate clearly, and read people with accuracy and confidence. She's also an international speaker, author, and creator of the Sisco Method. I am thrilled to have her here to talk about the truth behind body language, the science of trust, and how understanding people more deeply can transform every part of our lives. Please welcome Lena Sisco. Hello, how are you today?
I am doing very good now that we're out of our cold spell in Florida.
That's true. Is it now? Is it nice?
Yes.
Yes,
It's very
good.
nice. Yeah. So I'm happy
Yeah,
again.
that's good, right? I know. I'm kind of I need sunshine kind of. That's how I am.
Yes.
Yes. I'm so excited to have you. First of all, I feel like, God, I could have used you so many times in my life. I'm sitting here going, oh my God, my first husband, that would have been really helpful to know what the body language was saying. Different jobs, different. So we're going to dive into all of this. So those of you listening, it does not matter if you are an interrogator. It does not matter if you do that for a living. This is the kind of human behavior that we can all learn from to just communicate more clearly and kind of read the people that we're talking to. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So let's kind of just start with your background, how you even got into this and into the Navy, et cetera. Kind of give us, start us out from the very,
Yeah.
very beginning.
Well, I've told this story a bazillion times, and every time I tell it, people just kind of tilt their head and go, really? None of this was ever planned. I had no intentions of ever being in the military, definitely not being an interrogator. So it all happened just randomly by chance. I was an archaeologist. That's what I wanted to do. I loved it. When I was digging overseas, though, I was missing this little element of excitement that I thought came along with being an archaeologist. And I thought, oh gosh, I just spent my whole career and all my schooling to do this, and I don't think it's what I really want to do. So after graduating with my master's, I was, kind of in this space of, do I go on and get my PhD? Do I stick with being an archaeologist, or do I try something different? So I had a friend who was just joined the Navy, and he joined Navy intelligence. And he said, hey, you should join the Navy. They'll pay you. And at this point, I didn't really have a job. So my dad's like, it's time to make money, Lena. So I thought, yeah, there was that thing too.
Right.
So,
That adulting that you have to all of a sudden do, right?
Yeah. And so that was hitting me. The fact that, thought I knew what I wanted to do, and it wasn't. So I was like, where's my life going? So my friend convinced me to join the reserve. So it wasn't active duty, because that was like, oof, that was too much of a leap. So he said, listen, you can join a reserve program. You sign up for 6 years. You get to do the James Bond super cool stuff. And I was hooked. I was like, oh,
Wow.
okay.
You wanted excitement. I think you got it, right?
Yes. Because
Okay.
that's what I wanted. I was an adventure seeker. I wanted something that was going to take me around the world and with different cultures. And I wanted to shoot guns and be cool and like all this stuff. So he dared me to join. He's like, well, I dare you to join up with me. And I'm like, okay, why not? And a month later, I was raising my hand, getting sworn into the United States
Wow.
Navy. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my
That's
dad
incredible.
was my father, so I come from a very academia family, although my dad was conscripted in the Army, so he's not a military fan, but he looked at me and he was so disappointed. He's like, "You're joining the
What?
military." Yeah. And I was like, well, they're
Really?
going to pay me because his military experience was very bad. He was, not to be graphic, but he was an MP and in charge of loading dead bodies of our service members
Oh,
and shipping
yeah.
them back home. He saw the worst of humanity and he's just like, I don't want that for my daughter. So anyway, I signed up without really telling him. And I said, yeah, but this is my life. Let me make my decisions, so forth, so on. So I go through and I was, I had no military background, no bearing, no nothing. And I joined just being open to whatever was going to come my way. So I made it through my year-long training super, super fast. And I got stationed at my very first duty station, which was in Newport, Rhode Island at the War College. I'm from Rhode Island, lived there. And at one point on a reserve weekend, I had a commanding officer come up to me, and I was a seaman. I did not like that rank, but it was an E3, lowest of the
Okay.
low.
Yeah.
And I was old. So I joined when I was 27, 28.
Okay.
And he came up to me and he said, Seaman Sisco, I have a great opportunity for you. And I'm like, oh, yay, opportunity, excitement, adventure, right? And I said, what is it? And he's like, well, we have some Marines coming today to talk to us about a program that this is the first time they're allowing females to join your low rank and the Navy. Not active duty. This is specifically for Navy reservists. And they're doing it to kind of, gather more people in time of war to do this thing. I didn't know what the thing was at the time. And I said,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
great. Let me listen to them. And so I listened to them, and it was called IPW, Interrogation Prisoners of War. And after I listened to them and their horror stories, I went to my commanding officer. I said, Sir, thank you so much for thinking of me and thinking that I could do this. But no, this is not for me. I don't want to go to war and live in a tent with bombs going off around me and
Yeah.
having to interrogate prisoners. I'm like, yeah,
Oh,
I kind of,
right.
yeah. Because my mind was intelligence, war games, spy, but not that.
Not like
And
in
so,
the trenches, like really with
yes.
yeah, because I'm sure it's pretty gritty. And if you're questioning or interrogating them, you're doing that with some bad people.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that word, the gritty.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I saw. So I said no to him and he was, "Are you sure?" Because he's like, "I just think with your personality and your, background, you'd be great for this, but okay, I understand." So I went home. That was Saturday. Saturday evening, I'm home and I got so mad at myself. I'm like, "Why did I just say no to this opportunity? How on earth do I know if I'm going to like it or not if I never try?" And so I went back Sunday morning. I'm like, "Sir," I found him. I was like, "Hey, sign me up." And he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, but don't get your
Really?
hopes up about me. I'm probably going to fail out. It probably is not a good fit for me. And I don't want to disappoint you, but I also don't want to say no. So I'll try it and see how it goes." And then here I am today. It
Wow.
ended up, yeah.
So you did do the whole thing. You did
Oh,
go for the
yeah.
training, got
Yes.
into the grittiness. Oh my.
Yeah. Yep. Training was a
Wow.
year long. I loved every second of it. When I first started, I couldn't eat for months because I was so stressed out, but we did do super cool stuff. We got trained as hard as any Marine would be trained, like physically and mentally. So I like to say they broke me down and built me back up,
Yeah.
and they broke me
Yeah.
down physically and mentally. And
Mhm.
when a year went by and I graduated, I was like, this is what I was born to do. This is it.
Really? Okay, that
Yeah.
is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard from my husband all the boot camp stuff, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, how did you even make it
Yeah.
through that thing? And now yours, I can't even imagine. Yeah, that's remarkable. Okay. So
Yeah.
where did you get shipped off to after that?
So I only had one deployment. It was to Gitmo. So right after 9/11, I was actually just became an officer. So I got commissioned as an officer and I was in, we call it knife and fork school for reservists. We don't have to go through officer candidate training. I had already been in the military for 4 years. I had my bearing, I had medals already. So it's for reservists to come in and just learn how to be an officer. And it's a check in a
Why is
box
it
when
why is it called knife
it's,
and fork?
so you learn a lot of etiquette,
Uh, okay.
dining ins, dining outs, etiquette of an officer in the Navy, in the military. And we also in this school, because it's a reservist, we had a lot of doctors and lawyers coming in who were civilians who had never put on a uniform. knew nothing about rank structure, anything, and they were just coming in to be a
Okay.
reservist. So you had mix of people with a military history and background and bearing, and then those that had nothing. And because it's reservist, you only can have like 2 weeks at a time for this type of training.
Right.
So I was in an etiquette class, and I'll never forget this. And it was Miss Yonke. She had an etiquette class, and we were on our first morning break. I was in the break room getting coffee, and everybody else had gone back to class, and I was just lingering. So I was like, this is so boring.
Yeah.
Etiquette is just not my thing.
Yeah.
And so the news was on. And as I went to leave the break room, I just heard panic in the news reporters' voices. They're like, there's something happening in New York City. There's a plane that hit a building. I was like, oh, what's that? And I turned around
Oh,
and I saw, right, the planes hit the buildings. And I knew
yes.
instantly we were under attack. I just knew it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is
Yeah.
not, it's not nothing to do with air traffic control or
Wow.
electronics. I'm like, we are under attack. And
Yeah.
so I just stayed there. And then a student came down. He's like, hey, you're late for class. I was like, yeah, I think there's something bigger going on at the moment. And 20 minutes later, I got a call from my commanding officer. And he's like, hey, Ensign Cisco, pack your bags. You're going to war. And now this was
Oh
2 years
boy.
after learning and being trained as an interrogator. So I had 2 years of practice and, our training, but never interrogated real life. And I was like, oh my
Okay.
gosh,
Did they
here it
like
comes.
so they practice with you like they like role
Hmm.
playing? Is that how it is?
Yes.
Oh my. All right. So now you are going there. Are you first of all, how many other were there other women in your group or not?
Yes. So I was the second Navy reservist team. We had one female on that team, and I came and kind of took over her team. But there's like 36 interrogators, maybe four of us, three of
Okay.
us were
Mhm.
female.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then
Right.
we had a couple who were linguists, maybe one or two, but it was very low numbers.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, how are you feeling when how much time do you have to prepare before you go?
Oh,
Like
I had time.
hours? You did.
No, no,
Okay.
no, because I still had to finish this school or they couldn't deploy me anyway, so I had to finish that, so it was months, and when I got
Okay.
deployed, I was the second team, so the first half of the year I spent at Office of Naval Intelligence, on the back end working with the intelligence reports coming from Gitmo, and the second half I was down there as the interrogator, so I
Wow.
had time to prepare. Yeah.
Okay. So take us to the point where you're going there. How do you fly there? Is it all of you together? Is it like commercial jet? What is it that you're flying in?
Yeah, so I flew there on a commercial jet. It
Okay.
is not comfortable, but yet we take commercial airline. And anybody who goes to Gitmo, and if your listeners have ever been there, they know what I'm about to say about the flight pattern going in. You have to bank because you can't go into Cuban airspace. You have to bank the plane so hard. And as soon as you bank it, it's like you're on the runway.
My.
Crazy. Yeah, it's the craziest thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
flying back, I think I was in commercial. I had to go down a couple other times for the war tribunals, and I took a C-17 back and forth, but I think it was commercial. But I
Okay.
think the reality hit me when I got a tour of the interrogation rooms. That's when I
Really?
was like, how the heck did I get here? What
Oh
am I
my. Okay.
doing?
Tell us what that looks like. So, how many were there? You're wandering around. They're showing you
Yeah.
all of the rooms. Okay. Tell us what that is like.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it looks like and what it smelled like
Oh,
and
yeah.
felt like. So I landed with two of my teammates. I was an officer at the time, so I had two enlisted with me, and they were my friends too. Like we had been friends all for years. So I
Hmm.
got them situated as soon as we got off the plane. You have to get off the plane. You have to take a bus to a ferry. You have to take a ferry across to the US side. You have to get on another bus to
Oh
get
my
to
gosh.
yeah, it's so I got them situated with berthing and checking in and all of that. I didn't have anywhere to stay, so they had no house for me to stay yet, which was a little odd. And then I immediately went down to the camp for a tour and kind of in dock. And it was so surreal because it was that day that they were moving all the detainees from Camp X-Ray to our new prison, which was Camp Delta at the time.
Uh,
So
okay.
it was security lockdown.
Hmm.
We had over 600 detainees at the time. All of them were getting moved. It was pure pandemonium, chaos.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like a war scene, but not
I
war.
bet.
We
Were
totally
most
safe.
of the detainees men?
Oh, yeah, they
or
were all men.
they were all men. That's what I would
Mhm.
think. Okay.
Yep.
And oh my goodness. Okay, so you're going now you see the room. Is it like that bright light, a chair in the middle? Like is that how it's set up?
So when so my other teammate, Navy, who was there before me, she's like, "Okay, let me go give you a tour of where you're going to be working." And it was trailers, right? We call them like Connex boxes, and there
Okay.
were probably I can't remember, maybe 8 interrogation rooms down each side, so like 16. And in between the interrogation room was the observation room where you could walk in and put on
Right.
headphones and the two-way mirror and observe the interrogations and listen in. There was a phone too, if you have to call inside the booth or outside the booth. The first area was the guard shack. So she opens the door and I get hit in the face with this smell that was a combination of urine, vomit, sweat, and Lysol. And I walked in and I was like, oh my God, I feel like it smells in here. And she looked at me, she's like, what smell? I'm like, you can't smell that. It's disgusting. And all I kept
Yeah.
thinking is, how am I going to work here without getting sick to my stomach? How am I going to work
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
The funny
Oh
thing
my
is,
God. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it was disgusting.
Gross. Yeah.
I get interrogating, like, I literally have one day of in doc and I'm in the booth the next day, and a week went by and we had a visiting dignitary, so I had to go give him a tour of the interrogation rooms, and so I open the door and I walk him inside, I'm like, "This is where I interrogate, blah, blah, blah," and he's like, "Oh my god," he's like, "What is that smell?" And my response was, "What smell?"
Oh my
Because
God.
you
Could you
Yeah,
were already used to it
yeah,
that
nose
quickly?
blind, completely nose
Wow.
blind.
Oh my
Mhm,
God, that is interesting. Okay, so now you are interrogating your first, one of the first detainees, let's say, right?
mhm.
What does that look like? Are they sitting in a chair I mean, what does that room look like?
It's a small room and has a air condition in it. You know, you have the two-way mirrors on either side. You have 2
Right.
panic buttons, one for fire and one for emergency. That like
Okay.
one was, safety for myself or safety for all of us in the room and stuff like that. There was a table and metal chairs. And the detainee's chair was in front of a bolt in the floor because they had on what we call the three-piece suit, the chains that have the wrist cuffs, around
Yes.
the waist and the ankles. And so around the waist, there's a long chain and you bolt it to the floor in this bolt.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the reason being is we don't want them jumping up and attacking us.
Yeah.
And so it keeps them, and they're not like, they can move, they can even stand up, they can stretch, they can move about a
Right.
little bit. But if they were ever to try to attack one of us, all we have to do is, jump back or move back or
Right. And
something.
then they
N-
can't reach
yeah.
you. Okay.
And no one
Mhm.
ever tried to attack me ever.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, never had to worry about that. But yeah, and so I removed the table because I like to be belly button to belly button with my people.
Really? Okay.
That enhances rapport and a connection. It's also creating a safe
Yes.
environment. So I
Okay.
will say this, the first interrogation I did was so bad that I wanted to fire myself and send myself back home. I went to bed that night beating myself up saying, "People are dying because you suck so bad." Excuse my
Oh,
language.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it was
really?
awful,
Now,
awful.
why do so first of all, in hindsight, do you still think it was that bad?
Oh, yeah, I know it was
Oh,
bad.
oh, okay,
I know,
okay.
yes.
So there's no question
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
wasn't
there's
good.
no question. It was terrible, terrible,
What
terrible.
was not good about it?
I had fear, and my fear
Mm,
led to self-doubt, and it led to not utilizing my techniques. The fear took away my confidence, and you need
mhm.
confidence in any
Yeah,
type of human
yeah.
interaction. You just need it, and you cannot be insecure. You can't do any of that, and so that fear trumped my confidence, and just I fell apart. I
Yes.
didn't ask good questions. I didn't follow up. I didn't build rapport. I didn't follow all the techniques I teach today. Yeah, they just went out the window.
Right.
And because I was so upset and I knew why, I was like, I let the fear take over.
Yeah.
And so the next day I was going in with the same detainee, the same interrogator. And even the interrogator was like, walked out going, I know what he was thinking. He was thinking, she's terrible and I never want to work with her again. So I had the same interpreter and we were going back in and I would did my planning and prep with him, all that kind of stuff. And I could tell he was just like, oh God, what's going to happen today?
Yeah, yeah.
And I went from 2 hours of complete failure for the first day to 8 hours of like 30 pages of notes, great rapport. Everything was done by the book because I refused to let fear get in the
Mhm.
way of what I was supposed to do. I was like, absolutely not.
Wow.
It's never happening
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
And it resulted because I had the confidence in my techniques and how I spoke and the questions I asked, everything, rapport, following up, analyzing, just everything fell into place.
Yeah.
And then I
You were
just
probably
kicked
more
off.
in control too, because, the
Absolutely.
fear just makes you kind of scattery, I think. It just gets you scattered, or your emotions are kind of, you know,
Yeah.
getting in the
Well, it
way of your
takes you
thinking.
Bingo. It
Yeah,
takes you
yeah.
out of your prefrontal cortex, your rational
Mm,
part of your brain, and you go into your limbic brain, which can't do anything but become
I
emotional and think irrational.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow.
yeah.
So, oh my goodness. Okay. What are some of the techniques, if you can share, that you do use besides like building rapport?
So while I was there, even though I was trained by the Marine Corps and it was amazing training, I thought, there's a couple of things that I don't like and I don't agree with because I really believe in one equation. If you attract more bees with honey than vinegar, if you treat people with respect and you gain trust, you will get the truth 100% of the time. It's not
Hmm.
going to be really easy. Maybe easy with some
Right.
people, but it may take a little longer with others. But if you can gain trust, you will get the truth. So my whole
Really?
method is rooted in how to gain trust from someone, which is a bazillion things, right? It's a basket full of techniques. That's how I created the Cisco method of interviewing, rapport based and non accusatory and strategic in nature. So it's never about the I gotcha moment. It's never about, I want you to confess to X. I don't go after
Hmm.
confessions ever. I go after the
Right.
truth. And the truth is going to give me a lot more information. And
Wow.
so, yeah. And so when you're in the interview, interrogation, whatever it is, even a conversation, you don't have to interrogate anybody. For me, I define interrogation as a very thoroughly planned conversation. That's it,
Hmm.
with an
I
objective
like
or
that. I
two.
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to kind of bond in a way, right? To get them to trust you to
Yes.
then
So
talk.
yes, I think with trust, one of the best ways is to create a safe environment. In safe environment, I mean that person has got to feel comfortable with you and then in the physical environment itself. So how can you make that space as comfortable as possible for them to say, I feel good. I don't feel stressed. I don't feel worried. I don't feel judged. I don't feel blamed. I don't feel
Hmm.
like, they're lying to me. I don't feel that they're being manipulative. I don't feel that there's this false sense of integrity. So that whole entire environment, from how we act and the words we use and the questions we ask, the statements we make, the common ground that we establish, all of that should contribute to creating this safe environment for that person to feel comfortable to telling me anything
I
without
see.
fearing the repercussion or without fearing being judged or blamed.
Wow. Typically, does it take hours and hours to get to that?
No,
It doesn't.
not at all.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
And sometimes, like today, when I train law enforcement, we'll get the older generation will come in and be like, we'll do that rough and tough Mutt and Jeff
Yeah.
approach. And listen, some of them come in and say, hey, it worked. I'm like, okay, great. It's just not an approach I will ever take or teach. I don't agree with it because for me, it's real easy to lose control of your emotions and become accusatory and loud and yell. That's easy. A child can do it. If you really want to use techniques and be strategic in your method, then you have to use what I teach. And I will
Right.
guarantee that you will have a successful outcome. It's not going to be well, maybe I will. If I do this, they may. No, you'll
Right.
get there. But it
Okay.
takes a lot of mental agility.
Yeah. And these detainees were being accused really of what types of things?
So a lot, some were foreign fighters, some were members of Al Qaeda. So we had people there who were responsible for the attacks on 9/11. We had, the next hijacker that was supposed to fly a plane into somewhere else. And we had him. He never made it off the ground because we caught him beforehand. We had just financiers. So anybody that was part of the Al Qaeda, Taliban, or foreign fighters.
Okay.
Anybody who was caught on the battlefield in Afghanistan primarily, or who hit the terrorist watch list that were in other countries planning to attack the US or our forces or Americans or any of that. Those were the detainees at Gitmo.
Wow. And then I've heard all sorts of things. Is Gitmo still active? Are people
It
still
is.
there? It is. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
It's so different from what I experienced. Now
How so?
Camp Delta doesn't even exist, I heard. And they have like they were starting when I left Camp 4, which was, I think, for the cooperative detainees where they could go out and play soccer and grow gardens and this kind of stuff. It was just being talked about. And now they have, I mean, there's a lot less detainees. I don't know, there's maybe a handful there, but
Oh, really?
Delta doesn't even exist.
Wow. Okay. So
Mhm.
interesting so far. And I haven't even gotten to
Yeah.
my
I,
first question. Okay. So, any listeners out there, that was just me being mesmerized by what you're saying. Wow. Okay. That's incredible. Yeah, that's so incredible because I have been doing this podcast for a while and I had done one prior to this for years. And so I've met so many people with like stories of resilience and gutsiness, and usually I'm like, okay, I could maybe see myself get into that role and not this one. This one I'm like, hands down to you. My okay. Wow. Okay. So that is really what you call the science of trust though, right? Building that.
yeah.
And what else builds that trust? How do
So I always
what would you say?
say, you have to be trustworthy. So look at yourself. Listen to yourself and look at yourself. How are you coming across as trustworthy? And that's when we have to do that self-reflection, that self-assessment. How do I look? How do I
Mm-hmm.
sound? Am I boiling up? Am I avoiding eye contact? Am I fidgety and nervous? Am I uncertain of what I'm saying? So I'm stuttering and I'm pausing. Well, all of those behaviors, both verbal and nonverbal, will cause another person around you to feel uncomfortable because you feel uncomfortable. It's science, it's mirror
Right.
neurons, emotional contagion. So I tell people, if you feel insecure, you look insecure, and you also make the person around you feel insecure. If you
Okay.
feel calm and confident, you look that way, you're perceived that way, and then people around you feel calm and confident. It's science. So,
Wow.
how
Yeah.
can I make sure, just like my first interrogation, how can I
Hmm.
override that fear, stop the amygdala that keeps wanting to process it and have me react? How can I override my fear and stay calm and confident at all times, no matter the conversation?
Okay. That's amazing. Okay. All right. So that's how you're building that trust. Now, let's
Yeah.
jump for a minute to body language because I think this
Yeah.
is so interesting. So I had seen you, I mentioned before we started on TV,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to remember, I know it was Newsmax and they were doing, I think they were looking at a politician, possibly, was
Yes,
it Gavin Newsom? I think
it
it was
was.
Gavin
Yes.
Newsom. And
Yes,
they
it
were
was.
just kind of and they had you on as an expert to say, like, break down his body language. What is it saying? And I was just so impressed by it. I've always had kind of trouble with his hand gestures because they don't seem to match the words. Like I talk with my hands, but
Me too.
I'm part Latin, so it happens, right? And if there's a glass of wine around, usually it falls. That's how much. But I feel like the words match, like they go together with the hand
Yeah.
movements. So anyway, so that was super interesting. And that was why I thought, God, to really be able to read someone's body language and not only just have their words as what you're taking as cues seems so powerful. So
Mhm.
tell us a little what are some of the tells or what are some of the things you look for and what do they reveal to you?
I would say the most important thing to know when you're analyzing body language is this, is that you're going to see indicators of nervousness, right? Then you're going to see indicators of deception. Most people assume that when people lie, they become nervous, and a lot do, but not everybody. So,
Okay.
which is why we assume that the polygraph machine is a lie detector. It's not, it's a stress detector. I can pop on a poly, think different thoughts, calm my cortisol, and lie, and the machine will never detect it. So
Wow.
it's a stress detector. And we assume that most people get stressed out when they lie, which is not the case, but many do. But when I teach people how to accurately analyze body language, I say, listen, number one, you have to differentiate between whether a person is nervous or they're nervous from lying. And the way to do that is if they are nervous from lying, you will see not only stress indicators, but you will see deceptive indicators. And the number one most accurate deceptive indicator is behavioral incongruence. So that's when the body language does not match the spoken language. And you just mentioned about Gavin Newsom,
Yes.
right? He's got these hands doing all this weird stuff. And when they get out of control, he actually will hold his hand as if to say, stop moving your hands. And then they do all this stuff again.
Okay. Interesting.
Right.
Wow.
So that it's
Yeah.
a little different, but you have to make sure that you're seeing the behavioral incongruence. Is somebody not in sync? We are naturally in sync with our words and our body language because when we have a thought and we're about to speak, the truth is always right here. So if I had to lie to you about something, so say you asked me a yes, no question, whether, I don't know, I liked, think of something, an actor or something, right? So
Okay.
maybe you asked me if I liked a certain actor. And if I'm being truthful, my response is going to be a truthful response. So let's say it's yes. And I'm going to say yes with my words and I'll nod in accordance. But
Okay. Right.
let's say that I don't like this actor, but I don't want to come across as rude. So I'm going to have to lie to you. And my words are going to say no, but the truth comes out first. I think the truth a millisecond first. And then I have to respond with the lie. But because I still think the truth first, my body reacts to that. So I may say to
Ah.
you, no, I don't like him.
Okay.
But
And
my
just so
head
for
is,
listeners, she's nodding up and down though, even though she's saying
yes,
no. And I have seen people do that. I'm like, what are they doing? Okay. That is so interesting. Right. Because your body's reacting first and it
yeah,
knows the truth and
yeah,
then the words. And so there's that incongruence again where they don't align.
yeah. And there's
Okay.
another great indicator for all the listeners to pay attention to, because it happens all the time, is shoulder shrugs. So a
Hmm.
shoulder shrug, right? We can do a big shrug that hides our neck. We can do a little
Right.
baby one-sided shrug. Either way, if I don't have a physical ailment, like I don't have a nerve problem or I hurt a hurt neck or a muscle spasm or anything like that, and I start to shrug my shoulders when I talk to you and I'm saying something definitively. So let's say we'll go back to the actor. No, I like that actor. If I say I like that actor, I should be nodding yes, and you should
Hmm.
not see a shoulder shrug because I'm saying something very definitive. I like
Right.
that actor.
Yes.
But if I'm lying and I doubt the words that I'm saying, you're going to start to see these shrugs. And so I may say
Really?
something like, I like that actor. And I
Oh my
shrug my
goodness.
shoulder as I
Yeah.
say it.
And you shook your head like a no. Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I would have never
Yeah.
thought that the shoulder shrug was a thing.
Oh,
Wow.
it's the most accurate thing. I tell people, look for shoulder shrugs. So here's the thing with the shoulder shrug, right? It can be congruent. I can tell you that I have no idea what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. I have no idea. And my shoulders
And
come
your
up,
shoulder, okay.
but my words are saying, I don't know. And my shoulders are saying, I don't, she
Yeah,
doesn't know. Because shoulder shrugs are just a sign of uncertainty. And it
I
means I'm
see.
uncertain of what I'm saying. That's all it
Right.
says. So
Okay.
if my words are uncertain and they're in sync, we have no problem. But if you tell me that I really loved your training and you shrug your shoulders as you tell me that,
You're like, liar, liar.
right? I may
Yeah,
think you really didn't like it.
right. Wow. Okay. What other signs? What I find so powerful with this is just that, we may not be interrogators. I mean, the listeners or me, etc. But there are so many times in life where you question what someone's telling you, where it's
Yes.
not like where we question it or we're like, really? Is that really
Uh-huh.
true? Or should I trust them? I mean, until you build a rapport with someone, you don't know. And so new clients, new worker, other employees you work with to try to decipher that is so tricky. So we've got the shoulder shrug and the
Mhm.
incongruence. Anything else
Mhm.
that is like a for sure sign?
Well, so when people become nervous, they will tend to cover up what we call the three power zones in the body. So it's a neck dimple, the belly button area, and the groin area. Call them naughty bits. And so people,
Okay.
I know I like saying that. When people are nervous, they'll tend to cover these areas up. Now, it doesn't mean you're lying. It just means that you're nervous. But if you have somebody and you're in a negotiation and they're saying, listen, I'm giving you the best possible price I can offer you. This is it. And all of a sudden, and they grab their neck as they're talking about it. At that point, I'm going to say, I don't know. Is it really the best possible price you can give me? Because you became really nervous. So it's a way of
Yeah.
protecting yourself. And we do this. We go to protect and cover these areas. You'll see people who will dip their chin to cover that area. You don't even have to cover it with a hand. They'll just
Okay.
tuck their chin in. You'll see people take their arms and cover their belly, or clasp their hands together and cover their naughty bits, or cross their legs, or hide behind something. It's just a way where the unconscious brain is saying, prepare yourself because you have fear. And so that amygdala in our limbic brain says, if it senses fear, which we can have fear from lying, most
Right.
people don't like to lie, so we have this little anxiety. And if the amygdala is sensing this anxiety because you're not being truthful, it's going to cause all of these physiological responses in the body, and one of which is to covering up these areas. And the reason why unconsciously we tend to do this is because behind these three areas are vital organs. And if anybody were to hit us in these three
Oh,
areas, we could die. And the
right.
brain knows this. So the brain goes, I'm going to protect the machine, the body, and I'm going to do all this crazy stuff. I'm going to have you cover your neck. I'm going to have you self-preen and pacify. You're going to become smaller in stature. But all the while, the more I self-preen, rubbing arms, rubbing hands, rubbing legs, the more I become smaller, balling up, concaving, the more stress I cause my body. So I tell people, take up space whenever you feel stressed, you'll suppress cortisol. But back to reading people.
Huh.
If I
Okay.
see people covering up and becoming smaller, that just tells me they're in protect mode. And I have to figure out why with the conversation. And
Right.
typically, if
Okay.
I see these behaviors, I'll just ask you, like, Karen, how do you feel right now?
Okay.
And
And
if
then
I created a safe environment, you're
right.
going to feel okay telling me how you truly feel.
Yes. Okay. Wow, that is amazing. Okay, so interesting. Very interesting. Okay, any other signs we should look for? I
There's
love
a
this.
lot of,
Give us
yeah,
a few
there.
more. I love it.
Okay. So I love the head nod and shakes. You want to look for shoulder shrugs all the time. You want to look for covering up these power zones. So another one, this is so classic, is pursing of the lips. Right there. When the lips disappear, it can be a sign of anger or a displeasure, dislike, and disapproval. So there's a little
Like
saying, when the lips disappear, we don't like what we see and hear. I attribute it to that my friend Janine Driver, she says it all the time. But we'll tend to suck in our lips when we disapprove or dislike something. So if
oh,
I'm in a negotiation again, and we're negotiating a price for whatever, or terms or whatever, and I present my offer, if the person I present it to all of a sudden sucks in their lips,
yeah.
they do not like my offer. It's a
Okay.
classic tell. And so now
Really?
I know this, right? And if they say, okay, it's fair, but their lips tuck in, it's not fair. So I
I
have to
see.
do a little more work in the conversation side to figure out how they really feel.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. I mean, I can see using this so many times. It's crazy. Yeah.
And yeah. Do you want
That
one
isn't
more?
yes. Yes, please.
All right. I'll end with this one because this one you see in so many people. If you want to know if somebody is comfortable and relaxed, or if you want to know if they're stressing out or uncomfortable, when we're uncomfortable and we have worry and anxiety, cortisol goes off in the body and we have physiological responses. And as it's going off, our mind is preparing to go fight, flight, or freeze, right? When cortisol is going, it starts to pump blood through our body to go to our muscles and our heart, our lungs, is carrying oxygen. Because if we have to fight or
Right.
flee, we need our muscles to work and our heart to work and our lungs to work. So as the blood's pumping through the body, it actually pumps up into the head. And, you don't have a lot of meat here, not like your
Right.
belly or your
Yeah.
leg. So the blood comes really close to the surface of the skin and it starts to pool in the nose area. And people start to itch their nose and swipe at their
Really?
nose. If they don't have allergies and they don't do this as a baseline behavior, I have allergies. I'm constantly
Yeah,
swiping my
that's
itchy
different.
nose.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
So you would look at me and it's like, oh, that's just Lena. She has allergies. But if I'm
Yeah.
talking to someone who has never swiped their nose and in the middle of our negotiation, you start swiping your nose, it just tells me that cortisol has released and you're
Yeah.
feeling stress or
Right.
anxiety.
Oh, that's
And so I have to
wonderful.
figure out
Wow.
why.
What exactly, right. And then either negotiate something else or differently or guide them to
Yeah.
be okay with it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay, so now let's jump to some questions.
Okay.
So let's see what I have for you. So I had a bunch of serious ones, and then I'm like, I like the ones
You
that
know,
are going to be more usable. I mean, let me just look
sure.
here. So, yeah. Well, this is a serious one before I get to my fun ones. But the serious, let's say
Okay.
you teach people how to communicate with clarity and confidence, even in high
Uh-huh.
stakes situations. What does that look like in practice for like us, for everyday people that don't interrogate, when we are faced with that, but we still need to communicate clearly?
You can communicate clearly and confidently and be really concise if you take control of your thoughts. The only thing that messes up your communication skills is your thoughts, because our thoughts drive all of our behavior. That's the bottom line. Thoughts drive behavior, and that is our
Yes.
verbal and nonverbal behavior. If my thoughts are thinking, oh God, I'm so nervous. This is a big high stakes meeting. I have to give a presentation in front of 100 people. They're going to, I may screw up and then I may ruin my reputation. Those
Right.
thoughts will create a very nervous person, because it's only going to send off cortisol, and you'll have the physiological responses that you now have to
Yes.
deal with and give a presentation with, which is near impossible.
Right.
So I tell people, if you want to be confident in your communication, you have got to stop the train of thoughts that are causing you stress. So instead of thinking, oh, what if I screw up? You change it to, I'm not going to screw up. I love this. I'm an expert in this topic and I love presenting to people, and I'm going to give them a great presentation. That's it.
Nice. Okay. That's a good
It's
one. That's a
that,
really good one.
and it suppresses cortisol. I mean, I've done this twice in my life. When I gave my TED Talk in 2015 and the first time I went on TV, I went into full-blown panic attacks. Full-blown.
Did you? Wow.
Heart was thumping and
Yeah.
racing. I couldn't breathe. I was sweating. I'm like, oh God. Then I started going limbic. I couldn't remember my lines. And so I thought,
Yes.
oh no, this is not going to happen. And right before I got called out, the first time I was on Couple Score, I jumped off. I'm all mic'd up, ready to go. I jumped off the little seat they had me in, and I started walking up and down the back hallway. And I was like a victory pose. I put my arms up in the air, my chin up. I breathed in real deep and slow. I was taking big, wide strides, and I was just my body was expanding while I was changing my thoughts to think, you're going on TV. This is always what you wanted to do. Go have fun.
So that's kind of what you meant about taking up more space, right?
Yes, physically.
Yes, physically. Yeah. So like getting yourself.
Extend your arms out.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic.
And it calmed me right down. I walked out and I was like, whew, here I am. And I just was so
was
comfortable.
great.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it keeps you in your prefrontal cortex. If you're in your prefrontal cortex, you're in your rational thinking, very agile brain, and you can be an amazing communicator. But the moment you start to feel stress and anxiety, you're going to leave that beautiful part of your brain and go into your limbic brain. And now you're going to forget things, and you're going to second guess things, and you're not going to have the confidence, and you'll stutter and you'll forget all that stuff because you'll be in that irrational part of your brain.
Right. Okay. So then let's say you are talking to someone. Maybe it's not an interrogation. You're just talking to someone at like a Thanksgiving dinner, right? Let's say you're talking to somebody that you don't know, but you're meeting them. Okay. So then I find myself sometimes in a conversation. First of all, let me back up. People divulge everything to me. I don't know why. My husband's always like, why do they tell you their whole life story? So I don't know, but it always happens. Like upon meeting, it's crazy. I'll meet someone sitting at a bar, next to me, a woman, and we'll start talking. And it's like, all of a sudden I know her whole life story. But sometimes you feel like, is that true or not? Do you say anything? What's the best way to, like, do you tell them? I'm sure you don't go, your shoulders just shrugged. And so that, do you know what I mean?
I guess you could.
I guess you could. Might be weird. But
you measure the stakes of a conversation. So if I'm talking to someone and I'm in a negotiation, at that point, I have to make sure, okay, the information you're telling me has to be truthful, because I have to make this critical decision. Am I going to trust you? Am I going to accept your terms or not? So at that point, if I see any like behavioral incongruence, I may ask you a follow-up question on the thing you said, not your behavior.
Okay.
I'm never going to say that. But I may ask you to clarify or verify or add more information on that thing.
Okay. And
if that makes sense.
So then you'll see either more incongruence or you'll see it kind of correct itself.
Yes.
Is that what okay.
And if it gets to a point where your gut is saying, I don't buy this, I just tell the person, for some reason, I just don't feel comfortable right now with these terms. And I stop talking.
Okay.
And then I wait to see what they're going to come back with. And maybe we take a different route and maybe we don't. But at least I know in that point,
You're okay. Don't worry about it.
that I addressed the issue, and now I'll know whether or not to believe you.
Right. Right. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. And it's a nice way to be able to pause the conversation, redirect it, and not keep going down this path that you're like, I'm not buying any of this. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, when they don't trust themselves to, I call it calling out the elephant in the room, actually saying that you're uncomfortable with that person or the information. If people don't have the confidence to do that, that's when the other person will totally take advantage of them. They
Yes.
may
Yes.
lie, they
Yes.
may manipulate, they may cheat you out of something because they know you're not going to step up and call their behavior out. And so
Yes.
that's what I really teach people. I'm like, it is your right to step up and protect yourself. And if you have to bring it up in a conversation, then you do it. And you can be
Hmm.
absolutely respectful and polite, but you must do it.
Interesting. So how would you do that? I mean, is it just really to ask a follow-up question, or can you say, I mean, I'm not believing this. I don't know.
You can say, so there's a couple of different things you can say. I gave you one example, but you could also say something like, Karen, I think there's something else that you want to share with me. I feel there's
Okay.
something more that you're thinking about that you want to share with me. And then you must stop talking
Right.
because if you keep talking, that
Yeah.
whole statement, they don't even hear it. I may say something along the lines of, I'm just not comfortable yet making a decision. And then you could ask a question. Maybe you know why, or ask
Oh,
them for
yeah.
help me be comfortable making this decision. Or I think more information about X will make me comfortable about making this decision.
Well, those are good.
Either
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
hold that person
Yep.
accountable for giving you more information so that you are comfortable making a
Right.
decision.
That
And
makes
there's something
sense.
else. Yeah. And, I was never like this growing up. Even in college, I was timid. And people are like, there's no way. How did you go from that to an interrogator?
Yeah. Yeah, right? That's a big
It's,
leap.
yeah. And I think it was one incident where I really felt taken advantage of. And I walked away going, why did I allow this person to do that? And then again, I was like, never again. I
Right.
will call
Right.
out everything, a behavior or whatever, rudeness, you name it. I will call it out. And I'm going to protect myself because there's nobody else who's going to do that. Only I can do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And I can do it in a way where I don't lose control. My emotions, I'm in total control of. I'm calm, I'm confident, but I'm going to hold you accountable for what you did and what you said.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, let's see. What's one simple observation someone can make in the first 10 seconds of meeting someone that tells you a lot about them?
Whether or not they are opened or closed. So when you meet someone, if they have their arms out, they have their chin like lifted, right? They're open to talking to you, that have that good eye contact, that can
Hmm.
be a really good sign that they're trustworthy because they're open, right? Physically,
Yeah.
they're not
Right.
covering up body parts. They're open and they're open to a conversation versus someone who is covering up or really balled up or crossing their arms
Hmm.
and being
Hmm.
real, kind. And a lot of people say crossing arms is defensive. It absolutely can be. It can also be that my hands are cold. It can also be someone's comfort stance. But either
Right.
way, the perception is you're closed off from me. So
Hmm.
I tell people, you may think this is comfortable, but don't do it because it gives off a vibe that you are closed off. And if you're closed off, you're not
Yes.
open to being honest with me. So I would say open body language versus closed. Now you have to be careful because you have two types of people, extroverts and introverts.
Hmm.
Extroverts are naturally open.
Right.
Introverts tend to have being a little bit more closed, less eye contact, less body movements and arm gestures. So filter that in, baseline the person, and figure out which personality type they are before jumping to the conclusion that this person can't be trusted because they have their arms crossed and they're kind of
Right.
leaning away from me.
Right. Because it could be shyness, introvertedness, etc.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I like that. Let's see. You kind of answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. What's a helpful phrase someone can use when they sense a conversation is going sideways? If it's just starting not to go well.
So I always like to take out I statements. I don't want to make it about me. I'm going to make it about us. And I may say something along the lines of, I think we can approach this differently. right? I think
Hmm.
we could talk about this, or I think we can communicate so much better than what we have been doing. I know we're
Wow.
better than this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you use that word we, it automatically connects the other person. And the other person, when you're saying, I know we're better, not talking about the negative, reinforcing the
Right.
positive. I know we're better. That other person wants to be better. They don't want to be
Yes.
the person that's not better. So you already, with a subliminal message almost, have
Yeah.
gotten their buy in to be
Yeah.
better.
Makes total sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're kind of bonding with them again, even though you weren't feeling that
Yes.
before. Yeah. By saying we. Yeah. I
Yes.
like that. I could have used this so
hmm
many times, darn it.
Listen, so could I. I could have too.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I know, because there are some people that are just really good at lying, and
Yeah.
unfortunately I was married to one. But yeah,
Oh,
and I was so naive. I was young too. That was my first. And,
yes.
you know, I wish I could look back and go, did those things happen? Did they? And I bet they did.
Yeah.
And I had no
Yeah.
idea.
They probably
So
did.
interesting.
I'll
Yeah.
have my students, when I train law enforcement, after in their season, they've been in for 20 years, like 10 years.
Yeah.
Detectives, they'll go back and they'll say after my class, they're like, this just happened last week in an interview. I didn't know what it was, but now I do. And now I'm going to go bring that back in for further questioning.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
hmm
Now, is there something, some kind of a cue, or what we think is a cue, what we think is a deceptive response, or what you called it, something else, a deceptive signal,
Indicator. Say,
indicator,
yeah.
that was it.
Yep.
But that
hmm
really isn't. Is there something we get wrong a lot? Is there something that people think is one and it's really not?
I think it goes back to being nervous. So
Yeah.
people automatically think that when people are fidgety, that they're
Yes.
nervous and they're lying. It could just be a fidgety person. I'm fidgety. I
Yeah.
move all the time. Something on me has got to move. It's my baseline.
Yeah.
And so to avoid the traps of assuming somebody's not being truthful because they're avoiding eye contact or they're becoming fidgety or they're crossing their arms, you have to baseline how they normally act. And normally is a very subjective word. So I say get a read on them when they're most relaxed. So
I see.
relax the person, talk about something they love, their favorite meal, their favorite vacation, and start reading and analyzing how they move and act and sound. And now you have a baseline. So if all of a sudden you start talking to me about the negotiation, and we're getting into the terms and the pricing, and you start becoming fidgety when you weren't before, okay,
Right.
that can be a tell. If you start avoiding eye contact at that point, but you didn't before, that can be a tell.
I see.
Because
Okay.
yeah, avoiding eye contact and becoming fidgety can be tells, but they also can be for other reasons.
Right.
Nervousness, but telling the truth, or an introvert who doesn't, or cultural. There's certain cultures
That's
that
true.
avoid
Okay.
that direct eye contact.
Wow. This has been so amazing. I'm going to glance at my questions to see if there's anything
Yeah,
because I don't want to get off of this podcast and go, gosh darn it, I forgot to, because this has been so, so eye opening.
thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, it really, really has. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Yes. What is the funniest or strangest body language moment you've ever witnessed where you were like, what? Like any?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I do have some.
Oh,
And I
good.
thought,
Okay.
yeah, oh, I do have one. And I teach it to my classes and they roll their eyes. They're like, nah, that can't be a thing. And I'm like, oh, it's a thing. So it has
Really?
everything to do with the tongue. So if you remember, I remember when I was young, I grew up with two brothers, both younger than me, and I wasn't so nice. And I used to pick on them with my cousin. But anyway, and I feel bad. But, when you're siblings, you will stick out
Yeah.
your tongue at each other, right? People stick
Yes.
out their tongue as kids. You see it a lot. Well, I ask people, what does it mean when you're sticking out your tongue? It means I don't like you.
I don't
I
like you. Yeah.
disapprove of you, right? I don't like the situation or whatever. But it's usually dislike and disapproval. So the funny thing is that adults do it. The
Really?
difference is not like a kid where they're really protruding the tongue and,
Yeah.
elaborating the stance and the voice and the
Yeah. Yeah.
finger. Adults' tongues will peek out when they really don't like you or don't
R-
like what you said. And I have
Oh
videos of
my.
this that I show my classes and
I'm
I'll
trying to,
slow it down.
yeah.
Yeah. And that tongue will come right out. in total
Really?
disapproval.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting. Never
yeah,
would have thought that because I'm thinking
I
I've
know.
never seen an adult do that to me, but I'm sure they're right. So it's almost like it's so quick and so not it's subtle. It sounds like it's
It's
subtle
very
versus a
subtle.
kid's. Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
very subtle,
Okay.
but it means the same thing.
It means the same thing. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, you said you had a couple. Do you have another one?
Let's see. That one I think would be the funniest. I did
Yes.
want to share another indicator that you may see and kind of tilt your head and say, why am I seeing this? And it has to do with stress. So when cortisol goes off in the body, we'll tend to dry out in two places, the mouth and the
Yes.
eyes. And so people
Okay.
will lick their lips and try to swallow, but we call it a hard swallow, but because there's no saliva in the mouth, it's drying out. Well, people will dry out in their eyes too. And if they don't have another ailment like an issue with their contact lens or a scratch in the eye or dry eye syndrome, and their blink rate has been normal, and then all of a sudden we'll go back to the negotiation, we're talking about terms, and you
Yeah.
start rapidly blinking your eyes, that can tell me that you just had a shot of cortisol go off in your body and it dried
Yes.
out your eyes, and now you're trying to lubricate your eyes. And if we get
Okay.
past that point and we're talking again about what we're going to do this weekend or our favorite football game or football team, and the blinking goes back to a normal rate, then I know at the price
Yes.
I need to dig a little deeper because you
Oh,
got
wow.
nervous.
These are
Mhm.
phenomenal. I mean, really, these are so good, Lena. I'm like impressed. So now I know that you do, well, it sounds like you do many things. So, first of all, are
Yeah.
you still interrogating or no?
No, I will assist the detectives now analyzing 911 calls, helping them formulate approach plans, but I don't get in the booth anymore. Not to say I
Okay.
wouldn't. I do miss it.
Do you? Oh my gosh.
I
Okay.
do. I do.
That's cool. Okay. But I know that and of course, you're always, a guest contributor on lots of things because of your
Uh-huh.
expertise. But
Yeah.
you also work with people one on one, right? Tell us a little
Yes.
bit about that and like, why people would seek that out and what you do.
So it's called the Professional Mentor Program that I started running years ago because I had people come to me and they didn't want to take an online self paced course. They didn't want to have a mobile course. They wanted one on one individualized training in whatever they wanted. So, this program, you can work with me one on one for 3, 6, or 12 months. It's all virtual. So, we do Zoom meetings all the time,
Uh-huh.
twice a month. And the first one is a 30 minutes where you and I devise your curriculum. So, it is specifically tailored to you. So, I have some people who don't care about the deceptive analysis, they want to be really elite communicators. They want to handle any critical, uncomfortable, challenging conversation because they work in employee relations. And those
Hmm.
conversations get really hard because it has to do with ethics violations and whether firing somebody. So they come
Right.
to me for that. Others come to me for leadership. Others come to me because they want to know everything about deceptive analysis with the
Hmm.
body language and the words. So, statement
Yeah.
analysis. So, it all depends. I call it like I have a basket full of techniques that we can pick and choose and create. So, my clients range from big universities to medical professions to teachers to CEOs of companies. That's random.
Wow. That's it.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that is fantastic. That's great. So they would leave either knowing either as a better speaker or knowing all of these deceptive things. What kind of people want to know all the deception? I want to know
I
about them
It's a
because I
lot.
feel like that's me. I'm
Well,
like,
they're
who are we?
investigators. Yeah, I think
Okay.
everybody should know it, but I work with a lot of
Yeah.
insider threat and fraud investigators too, but I also work with people who own a business. And they're like, I have to trust my employees that I'm hiring.
Right.
I have to trust my business partner. I have to trust the vendors that I work with. And
Yep.
so if it's anything to do with I have to be able to trust and fill in the blank, you need to know how to accurately read people. And that is both verbally and non-verbally. So it's
Right.
being able to spot those lies, indicators of deception, and the indicators of truthfulness, and then know what to do with it. So I don't stop just by training you how to identify and be aware of all these indicators. I teach you how to get the truth. And I think that's the
Hmm.
critical part. It's the question to ask to get that truth. It's what to say in a conversation.
Right.
It's how to
Right.
get there.
Is there any like statement or thing to say that works in most situations or no?
So I do like one question, actually. The question that you can get the quick and easiest read on somebody to if they're lying or not is a yes or no question. I'll tell you why. I don't like yes and no questions to gather information. Obviously, they only get
Right.
to a yes or no. And it also gives a person a real easy way out to lie. I can lie to you and say no on something that is a yes and never have to talk about it and come across as confident. But a yes and no question asked for the purpose of identifying if somebody's lying to you or telling you the truth is brilliant. So if I ask you a yes and no question, a truthful person responds with a simple yes and a simple no. Their minds are telling the truth. Therefore, they don't feel this need to convince you of anything. So they typically, not 100%, but they would typically will answer you yes, no. The classic example, going back to Jerry Sandusky, if you know who that is.
Yes,
and he's in jail now. He's a pedophile. He was asked a yes or no question. I have this in a clip that I show my classes. And the reporter, he was just on Voice, and the reporter asked, "Are you sexually attracted to young boys?"
Oh my
now, if I ask any man this, the immediate answer is no.
Like a flat out, strong no. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. With a head shake. No.
Yeah. Right.
But Jerry... But Jerry doesn't answer no. He actually repeated the question not once but twice and then said this, and I have this memorized. He said, sexually attracted? Sexually attracted? No, I enjoy young people.
Boy, I see what you mean.
Right?
That just does not.
So we call that softening language anyway, complete deception. So if you ask a yes or no question and you don't get a yes or no, you get repeating the question, asking a question to your question, or yes, but, and this whole, conversation afterwards, it's probably because that person doesn't have the confidence to answer yes and no, and they don't want to take full accountability and responsibility for a yes and no. So therefore, they're going to avoid it. And if they're lying, they're going to try to convince you of what they're saying. So a liar's brain is always trying to convince you of a lie. And you can see it verbally and non-verbally. Convincing body language, convincing words. A truthful person is just focused on conveying truthful information. And therefore, there's no need to convince you. So you don't have an overselling of yes and no. You just have yes and no.
Oh, that's phenomenal. That's so good. I love that. I'm hoping you guys listening that you're just gathering the best info. If you're out there and you're dating, you probably need this.
Yes, you do.
You know, like if you're doing online dating and then you start meeting these people, what a great tactic to be able to have that, to go, because there's so much deception in all of that. That's incredible.
So much. I do it to all my friends that I know, even my niece. If they're dating online, I'm like, give me the phone. Let me see the text. Let me see your conversation.
Wow.
And I will analyze that conversation and pull out whether, okay, you're good, or whether run and delete this person.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You might need to start teaching a dating class.
I know. I think I should.
I think you should.
I think I should too. My last book on dark psychology and how to protect yourself from it, my husband's workers, he lent it all out to him. And one of them came up to me and she's like, "Lena, you just wrote the perfect guide to dating." She's like, "It's perfect."
Right.
And I was
really?
like, I did.
Yeah, because it's so hard to trust yourself and only your gut feeling. But if you could take your gut, which I always think your gut feeling has to be in it, and it's important.
Oh, it does.
And right?
It's so important.
But if you could add to it, like, yes, and I have these clues that are these, cues that I saw, then how much better that would be. Yeah.
Right.
Love it. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on here. I fully see that we're going to have to do more in the future because
I would love to.
Yes. Okay. So if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way, whether they want to do a one-on-one or just hear more about you or your book? How can they?
You can go to my websites. One is easy. It's just lenasisco.com. My company is thecongruencygroup.com, and I'm all over LinkedIn.
Okay, beautiful.
Yes, you can email me, DM me.
So do you get like super busy and kind of in the trenches when it comes to a political, vote?
Yes.
Like as we get to 2028, like it's right. Isn't that what happens?
Yes.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah. So that's good. I'm going to be checking in with you around 2028.
Okay. Let's do it.
Oh my, let's do it for sure. Thank you so much, Lena. This has been such a joy.
Well, thank you. I really had a good time.
Thanks for listening to Beautifully Built. If today's episode gave you something to think about, or better yet, fired you up to build bolder, be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. You can find me on Instagram at Karen Otis-Webb for more behind the scenes, design inspo, and life building magic. Remember, you're not here to play small. You're here to build something real, because a life worth living isn't found, it's built. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and stay unapologetically you.